inviolate be torn upon wheels. For her sake let all chaste women be utterly despised among you. Also for beauty's sake and love's. Despise also all cowards, professional soldiers who dare not fight but play. All fools despise, but the keen and the proud. I am in a secret fourfold word, the blasphemy against all gods of men. Curse them, curse them, curse them. With my hawk's head, I peck at the eyes of Jesus as he hangs upon the cross. I flap my wings in the face of Muhammad and blind him. With my claws, I tear the flesh of the Indian and the Buddhist Mongol and Din. Blasphemy, I spit on your crapulous creeds. Let Mary and Violet be torn upon wheels. For her sake, let all chaste women be utterly despised among you. Also for beauty's sake and love's. Despise also all cowards, professional soldiers who dare not fight but play. All fools despise, but the keen and the proud, the royal and the lofty, ye are brothers, as brothers fight ye. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. There is an end of the word of the God enthroned in Ra's seeds, lightening the girders of the soul. To me do ye reverence, to me come ye through tribulation of ordeal, which is bliss. The fool readeth this book of the law, and its comment he understandeth it not. Let him come through the first ordeal, and it will be to him as silver, through the second gold, through the third stones of precious water, through the fourth ultimate sparks of the instant fire. To all it shall seem beautiful. Its enemies who say not so are mere liars. There is success. I
That's it. I'm not gonna follow you. Then I just mind my business.
Like Puerto Ricans. He say he don't like Puerto Ricans.
He's my friend. You don't like him neither.
Puerto Ricans.
And he don't shave his armpits. You ever seen a goddamn Prince Honey? Hairy ass.
And Gigi, he ain't got no teeth in his mouth neither. He got no teeth.
Well, Brooklyn, to be fair, neither does she, so that's not a good one.
Shit. Y'all both toothless. Damn.
This is all the person who goes.
My point to this is, there are times in America where the Supreme Court has rewritten its own precedent. On the arguing of Roe in the 70s, one of the most important justices over the last, say, 50 years, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said in her concurrence that she believed the legislature needed to make the law. So the legislature, or Congress, needed to put that law in place. They knew so in the 70s, and they ignored it because it was easier to let it be a Supreme Court precedent that could possibly one day be changed to a law which would set it into the foundation of American legal system. A good example of this is what's called Obergefell in 2013. Obergefell made same-sex marriage legal. As a consequence of making same-sex marriage legal, the Congress under the Joe Biden administration in 2023 passed the Marriage and Equality Act, which enshrines in federal law the right for gay, lesbian, and transgendered couples to live together under American law and be treated the same. The reason I'm juxtaposing these things is to note that, one, the Congress felt was so important they put into federal law. The other, they ignored and let what amounts to a hope and a prayer, because you can't dictate the Supreme Court to where it was. Now, where I do think you have a point is that there were two justices in particular that talked to several members of the Senate and said they were going to be no's on Dobbs, which is the case. And they ended up being yeses on the case.
And by the way,
So I think that's a...
Marshall, very quickly, Dobbs, as you well know, came from Mississippi. It was a Mississippi case, not a Texas state. Continue.
Yeah, so Dobbs then doesn't make it illegal. They throw it back to the states. My state, and this is why I don't like the guy's attorney general very much, put in an incredibly restrictive abortion bill. Had an exception for rape, incest, life of the mother. There was this woman who went before the court, the process laid out in the bill. And our attorney general had written the code for the legislature. And he then sued on the exception that he wrote into code. So he's kind of a POS. So like that guy I would call pretty bad. But not all do it. Now they all invoke Christianity, but that's a facet of being Texas rather than anything. Like they don't so they may invoke Protestant Christianity in the East and West Texas and parts of North Texas, but in the Rio Grande Valley it's Catholicism. Like I live right next to Mexico, so it's always couched in those terms. So I can understand it not wanting to be funded by public money, but again, I think the Texas textbook or the Texas Education Agency will probably give teachers enough room to teach alternate text, which is, if you're going to go over one literary thing for religious texts, it makes it incredibly valuable, not because you're trying to be equal, but because it's valuable to read other stuff into the people's way of thinking. But I agree with Jason. This is not what y'all think it is, because they have been reading the Old Testament in Texas high school since before the 1990s. It never stopped. It was just always in English and always the Old Testament. The only difference is it's mandated in law now.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, again, there is a difference between teaching the Bible and teaching history, Christianity. And what I've heard is like,
I'm also talking about English. English too. English is a literature course. You read literature from when I took literature, we read, for example, Gilgamesh, right? So we read the story of Noah because Gilgamesh is the story of a flood. And historically, all the flood stories in the Fertile Crescent kind of go together. So they have been doing this for a very long time. I may depart from Jason here, but I don't think you should mandate reading particular religious texts ever. I think it's a bad idea. I think they should suggest you could do these three and make it a rule that if you choose one, you got to do most. So everybody knows what they believe, because as you said, we're at a different place. But again, Texas is also just very culturally Christian. It just is. It means it's going to get invoked in public affairs often. Most of the time at political events, they start or end with some sort of a reference of God.
yeah.
Now, while some of that makes me uncomfortable, because I don't like the invoking of religion in politics, as I've said, you're not going to get away from it. So would you rather the kids learn about this stuff from the crazy political people, or would you rather them learn about it in a literary class where they have to compare it to the Epic of Gilgamesh? Which one?
I mean, this is recent, right? The teaching of this text in the school is just
No,
very recent.
I'm 35. I went to school 2004.
Yeah, but it was not in the curriculum back then, Marshall.
No, it was.
If it was, well, if
It wasn't in the curriculum.
If it was back then, right, there was a time where it wasn't, and then it was added again.
No, public school. No,
I mean,
it was
briefly
mandated to read in freshman English. You had to read Exodus, the story of Noah, and you had to read the story of Moses.
Marshall, maybe
So
your
when-
school did that, but it was not mandated at
Okay, I was under the impression that it was.
Okay, so you're confusing things here. The whole point of this is that there are now rules at the state level.
Yeah, recent rules at the state level.
Right.
So, again, so the point is that it's not the same to talk about and say, oh, Christianity, like from the historic point of view, is important. Nobody's arguing that point, and nobody's arguing that it shouldn't be taught, right? But saying that you're teaching Christian history, like from the Bible, it's not correct, right? You're not. So, for example, you're teaching more like a theology, right? That's what you would try to learn from the Bible. You will try to learn like moral statements, like how to behave morally and what is good and what is bad and what God wants from you, etc. Right? From the literature point of view or from artistic point of view, there's some value in that, right? But again, like my point to that is that just to avoid the impropriety or the impression of impropriety by teaching from the Bible, you could pick other books, and it doesn't follow that you're going to be ignorant or you're going to lose something, right? There's a lot of religions that there's religions in other states. For example, the Book of the Mormon in Utah, which is probably much more relevant to Utah than the Bible is, right? And they could argue that that's the book that they should learn from. And my argument will be also like, you don't need to learn from that book specifically. You can learn about history books, and if you're gonna learn about history, certainly the Bible doesn't talk about Christian history, right? It doesn't tell you what happened in the 1500s when like Luther separated from the church and what the reasons and what were the consequences and where the states that are the countries that were founded, right? Coming to the history of America, right, and the founding fathers and all those things, they were deeply religious. They were not necessarily Christian. They were deists. And I mean, I guess there's a whole conversation and argumentation against this kind of like, were they Christian or not? Is there really a separation of church of state or not? Which I think most of the people here have agreed that secularism is a way to go, right? So if we pretend that that's what actually the founding fathers wanted, and there's evidence that they did want that, right? Like, I think you bring up Thomas Jefferson, but on top of like that specific letter, he was like correcting drafts of the Constitution where he removed certain things that sounded more religious, and he tried to go to things that were more secular. I think one is like when he says that we believe that these truths are sacred and something he
We believe these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Yeah, he replaced it for self-evident, right? It was sacred, and then he replaced it for self-evident because that make it sound more of a secularity, which it was very intentional. So again, I mean, I'm not saying that, oh, you shouldn't learn about history and why Christianity was like very relevant from the historic point of view. You're not going to learn that from the Bible. The Bible is not the place where you're going to learn all this stuff. It doesn't have anything to explain about all of the foundation of America on Christian values. None at all. The Bible doesn't. It's 2,000 years old. How could it? Okay, so that kind of stuff could be taught at schools, that will be a history lesson, and you can see it. You can see it from a literature point of view or from artistic point of view. Yeah, sure, but again, why pick the Bible, add it to the curriculum, and say everyone needs to learn from this? Like, just pick Greek mythology, pick like Aesop's fables, right? Or just pick so many good stuff. Mark Twain. Why don't you teach Mark Twain? Why don't we say Shakespeare? Right? Shakespeare is so hard, but maybe I don't know things that are.
I see.
Yeah. Why don't you pick stuff like that we are think more easily? It's not divisive. People are not gonna argue about that. They're gonna be. I mean, they're gonna argue probably, but not passionately about like, oh, you're really going through favoritism of what religion or another.
So I don't think you can talk about the history of, well, you're saying it could be part of history to learn about religion, but you're saying you would study the history of religion, and at no point would you read original religious texts. At no point. I mean, does that even seem like a good idea?
I don't think he was saying that, because if he said that, that would be really dumb.
No, please.
No,
That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Why?
And they only have 3 texts in the curriculum. Yeah, it makes sense that you would read some texts from Christianity, from the Christian Bible, as part of learning about religion. Yes, it makes sense that you would do that. And when you're trying to understand the West, Christianity in particular is especially important.
What does the Prodigal's Son story teaches you about Christian history in the West?
It's just one story from the book, okay? I mean, they're not going to be able to cover all of them. But
no, I understand, but you claim that teaches you about...
No, I'm not claiming that. I'm saying you would have to read some passages from the real Bible, or it's plausible that you would read, it's reasonable that you would read plausible passages from the real Bible as part of learning about the history of Christianity. That's just totally reasonable. Now, if they have a lot of passages, okay, then maybe you have some doubts. Now, you have some reservations about the particular passages. Maybe you think other passages would be better, but that's not what is at dispute here. The question is, do they...
That's not true. I don't have reserve.
Well, you're saying, well, the prodigal son, what does that have to do? Well, the thing is, I don't know. I'm not Christian, okay? I'm not Jewish. I'm Buddhist. I don't know what's in these texts. Okay.
You don't know what is the prodigal.
I know.
Son
Yeah,
story.
that's what I just said. I don't know. Okay. So.
Okay.
And
I thought you argued that to understand the West, you need to.
You made an assumption, Carlos.
Why would I say that? Because I'm learning about the history of the West and I don't know anything about Christianity. Okay, and so I start reading these texts where people talk about various things about God and messages from the Bible, and I don't know those things. Okay, because I'm Buddhist. All right, I've been Buddhist for like 25 years, so I know about Buddhism. Okay. And I started learning about Judaism and all of these kinds of things in order to learn some of these things. So, but not because I believe in them. So all I'm getting at here, Carlos, is even if we just accept the premise you offer that you should study it as history, okay, then you would read some original texts. So that makes sense to read some original texts as part of history. And 3 religious texts over 12 years is not too many. Okay, 3 passages. You're not reading the whole thing. Okay, the whole Bible or something. 3 passages over the course of 12 years is not too many. It seems like too few. So, yeah.
Well, I think that again, when you read text, when you read the Bible, it's mainly for to learn about theology and learn about like moral behavior, right? How you should behave, and like what God wants us to do, and all of those things. And there is no, you cannot say that that's not how it's going to be taught at schools, right? Because they're reading from religious texts again.
Well, Carlos, they're not supposed to take it in that context. They're supposed to, as far as I understand. However, I think it opens the doorway for that to happen. What they're imposing to do is teach it as an English lit course, like just as a story, i.e., uh, like Hamilton, telltale, poetry, stuff like that, Shakespeare, right? But not to be taught as a life lesson on how to behave and how to conduct yourselves and how to gain your morals. However, I do think that it's going to turn into that, and that's where it needs to be stopped. Hopefully it doesn't happen.
Well, so like I said, we teach in Texas, and like I was in an AP course, so that's probably why they taught it this way. But if you're telling the story of the flood in history, if you don't include the Bible, you're not being honest. It's just that easy.
Why were you taught that in history?
Wait.
That's not history, Marshall. That's
No,
myth.
the story of the flood is a historical account which is compared to Gilgamesh, the Egyptian flood story, the Kushite flood story. It's given to flood stories all around the Mediterranean basin and has been for decades.
Yeah, so if you're
And that's the point of it.
If you're studying these kinds of myths, yes, you must include the Bible as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
In English, they said it does.
You're right. So maybe it's English, but I mean it's not history. I think that's what confused people.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no, I'm saying history informs the English, right? You get the literature.
No, what I mean is, like, when you say you're studying in history, I mean the flood is a myth.
Oh,
Okay, maybe it
yeah, then I
happened,
was
maybe
saying
it didn't.
you're right. That makes a lot more sense.
But it's a myth, okay?
Yeah.
And yes, when you're studying flood stories as part of like foundational stories, of which there are many, then of course you should mention the Bible. Should you read the Bible as part of that? Well, it's up in the air. Maybe you can read the Gilgamesh man. Maybe you can read the other one. But if over the course of 12 years of studying history and literature, and all the time, during that time, you're going to mention myths from the Bible, stories from the Bible, should you read one or two of them, maybe three or four, as part of becoming a literate person? Sure, I think that's totally reasonable. Many other things, you're going to read many other things. You're going to read that stuff from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah,
you read Anglo-Saxon. You read Anglo-Saxon religion, okay. You read myths from the Greeks, right? And it should be mixed in there. I think that's totally reasonable to mix it in there. Maybe it will turn out like JCC is saying. Maybe they will give these texts special emphasis, which they should not do, all right? But I think as part of a broad liberal education, some readings from the Bible make a lot of sense, you know?
I just would say that I didn't get like extensive education on religions until I got to college and I took elective courses. There's no like required reading about religion or any different kind of religion until I got. Actually, I don't think there was any required reading at all. I'm in California, by the way. The other thing too is like, I mean, there's tons of private schools that by tons, I mean there are a lot of private schools where parents can send their children to get a religious education or just like a Christian history kind of education. You know, there's lots of places for parents to do that. Why does it need to be also taught in the public schools? I don't understand.
I mean, in my school, we did study myths. We didn't study comparative religion, but we did study myths. We did read Beowulf, for example. We did learn about Virgil, the Aeneid. We learned about Homer and the Odyssey. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe in your school they didn't do that, but in our school they did. And they thought it was part of preparing us to appreciate other literature that comes later. For example, if you want to appreciate Shakespeare, you know, knowing something about the Romans and their beliefs, knowing something about Christianity, all contribute to that, and that's part of their plan, part of their program. So, I'm not saying you have to do it, but there's no reason you don't have to do it. You know, there's no reason it's a crime or that it undermines the fabric of the country.
Just the First Amendment of the Constitution.
I think you got to make that argument because merely mentioning Christianity in the context of many other religious things, or reading Christian texts in the context of many other religious texts, is not recognizing an establishment of religion, you know?
Well, isn't the number of days limited to pick up in public schools? And so are they going to get into the Sikhism? Are they going to get into evangelical baptism? You know, Southern Baptists? Are they going to get into Calvinism? I mean, there's so much there that what you omit is almost an establishment of what you're covering.
Well, arguably, what you omit is a violation of the Constitution.
But so you bring up Church of Scientology? Religion goes down rabbit holes because since the Constitution, we've spawned here in America another dozen religions.
Okay, and I may be wrong, but it sounds like what you're arguing is what is and what is not a legitimate religion. What I'm stating is if you talk about one religion in public school, arguably you have to talk about all of them, otherwise it's a constitutional violation.
Sure. So again, it's a rabbit hole of it's not going to happen. They're not going to pick up enough subtleties to talk about, 3 flavors of Judaism, a dozen flavors of Christianity, 2 or 6 of Islam.
Yes.
Buddhism,
yes.
Okay, so
arguably the best solution is not to talk about any of them.
I agree with Elliot.
Which then, when you try
we should teach this stuff as comparative religions. It's important. It is an important part of people's lives, and comparative religions is probably the best place, best type of class where you learn about religions, about the beliefs and traditions, and
but not in public schools. Save it for the university level.
It can be a part of a social studies class. You should study culture, anthropology.
They used to teach in old parochial schools, and it had a habit, like the Jesuits do it. The Jesuits teach comparative religion in high school, and their rationale is that being able to see what everybody believes makes you a more critical thinker.
It's just like philosophy. The more frameworks your brain's familiar with, the more creativity you're capable of.
There's already, I just Googled some Supreme Court cases. The first one that popped up was Abington School District versus Schmepp, 1963. Let's see, let me read primary holding. Public schools cannot sponsor Bible readings and recitations of the Lord's Prayer under the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. Because of the prohibition of the First Amendment against the enactment by Congress of any law respecting an establishment of religion, which is made applicable to the states by the 14th Amendment, no state law or school board may require that passages from the Bible be read or that the Lord's Prayer be recited in the public schools of a state beginning of each school day, even if individual students may be excused from attending or participating in such exercises upon written request from their parents. I'll put this link in the chat for you guys. There's a bunch of other court cases like this. The precedent is that this is unconstitutional.
Then somebody should sue. One of the things I learned about the federal system, which I think is most consequential, is a lot of the times when things happen, you don't have the money or the wherewithal to find somebody who has the standing to go before a court and adjudicate the matter to begin with. Because I agree with you. Uncle Steve.
Look.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask if you could post a letter to the Danbury Baptist at the...
I'm sorry, post what?
I sent you the letter to the Danbury Baptist from Thomas Jefferson. It's where the idea in America of secularism.
You want me to post it in the group chat?
Group chat at the top, whichever is easiest for you.
You got it, buddy. No problem.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, what you're posting here, Elliot, just has nothing to do with whether you can assign the reading in a course. It's talking about an assembly that is at the beginning of the school day, right?
That's one of the things
And
it says. It says that, plus it says, let me scroll back up. The first sentence says public schools cannot sponsor Bible readings. Okay, that's the first sentence. Cannot sponsor Bible readings. And if there are readings about like David and Goliath,
that's a summary. That's a summary provided by Justia. Yes, but I'm saying if you look at the holding is when they say readings, they're talking about when you have a Bible reading in the sense that a church has it, like we all get together and we read this thing, right? That's not the same thing as an assigned reading in a course, which obviously a school can assign. Even a state-run school can assign. Like let's say you have a comparative religion course, then the teacher can indeed assign a religious text of any kind, including the Bible. So this is talking about ritualistic religious activity.
No, it's talking about that too. It's not talking about just that. Okay, a teacher whose salary is paid for by the American taxpayer, say Texas residents, Texas citizens, the public school is sponsoring that Bible reading. That's what they want to do.
That's not a Bible reading in the sense that is meant here, okay? Because you're just reading the summary and you're using the word reading in an equivocal sense. Here they're talking about a Bible reading in the sense of a recitation or an organized religious study. In particular, they say, no state law or school board may require that passages from the Bible be read or that the Lord's Prayer be recited in the public schools of a state at the beginning of each school day. Okay? This is talking about an assembly and things like that. It's not talking about a required reading list, which, for the purpose of study, where, yes, any text may be assigned. I think that it's not manifestly illegal, like it's child pornography or something.
I just think there's plenty of religious institutions as I drive in Texas where people can elect to learn whatever they want. Just like their parents can bring them to if they want them to. That K through 12 mandatory doesn't sound like an elected.
No, it's mandatory. Yes, it's mandatory.
Even over here in California, which we're more liberal, left-leaning, I can't drive even 2 blocks without passing a church. They're just everywhere. There are tons of private schools over here that are, Catholic private schools, usually mostly Catholic private schools, but there are Protestant schools over here as well, where, 3rd graders, I don't know if you read from the AP that I posted earlier, Jason, but in the AP article about this, it just says that, by the fourth grade, children will be learning about Jesus. Okay, and Christians think that Jesus is God. Right, so they're learning about God, Jason. That's what.
Where is that, please? Where is that, please?
Let me get it. I'll post it. Let me get it.
I mean, like city or state is what I'm asking. Okay.
This is a state law in Texas. This is a state law.
It's a state law in Texas. Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
And it's like a ruling by Texas School Board, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's a state regulation. Regulations are also law, but
if it's a state law, then all the school boards would have to follow it. If it's optional, then it would be each individual school district.
No, it's required.
It's a state law, is what you're telling me. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think I think one of the confounding things here is like reading religious texts is common in high school. Okay, I mean, people read the Iliad, people read the Aeneid in high schools, people read the Odyssey, or they read bits and pieces of it. Reading texts
Do you
with
think the
I'm trying to
Odyssey
finish.
and
I'm trying to finish up here. Okay, that reading texts that are not per se religious, but are full of religious content is also common. Okay, if you read Shakespeare, Carlos, please. If you read Shakespeare, it's full of religious references. If you read Beowulf or Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, these are full of religious references. So just the fact that a text is religious in nature, or that a text references God or religious content, it's not enough to mean it shouldn't be in school.
You think the Odyssey and Iliad are religious texts?
Yes, they are religious texts. They are about the dawn of the Greeks, for example.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the Aeneid is how Romans became Roman, okay? It is the founding myth of Rome. Now, I don't know, that's their religion.
Well, I mean, I agree that they were religious because there was a group of people who believed that there was a god or gods, right, based on those texts. But there is no people that believe that anymore, at least not significant group of people. So there is a difference and distinction to make between those books and the Bible, right? The Bible is more in line with like what the Quran will be or the Book of the Mormon. Those are religions that pretty much people will take scripture and they believe on that as is the word of God. Nobody believes that Zeus is God anymore.
But I'm not sure what that matters here, because does that mean it's not a religious text because you can't find anybody? You can't find it. You certainly can't say for certain that no one believes it. Okay, that's actually really. Please stop interrupting me, Carlos. I'm trying to package everything up here. Okay, don't correct me. Correct me when I'm done. Okay, that will be much more orderly. All right. You certainly can't say with certainty that no one believes it. But okay, it's hard to find a person who believes it. That's probably true. But does that make it not a religious text from a legal or public policy standpoint? I think that's pretty vague or tenuous. I think, for example, if the government insisted on rituals of Greek religion and of ancient Greek religion, that would be seen as violating the First Amendment and establishing a religion, even if the religion is a dead religion. Okay, it just doesn't matter from a public policy standpoint. I don't see why you emphasize that point so much. So what is important to you about that?
Again, like, I'm not saying that you cannot find someone who will believe that Zeus is a god, right, or Thor exists or whatever. There's not a large group of people who believe on that, and there's certainly distinction, right, between what is mythology and what is like a religious text. And I'm sure courts will make a distinction between someone who's teaching the Iliad and teaching the Bible. Pretty sure that all the people here will understand the difference between what is like the Bible means for people who believe in Christianity and what and the Iliad book, right, from artistic, literary, or historic point of view, right, that they are different.
If we flip this around and we replace teaching stories about David and Goliath and stuff like this, the lion's den and whatnot, if we replace those stories with readings from the Quran about the Prophet Muhammad, let's say, and the Texas School Board, forced Christian children, third graders, to read about the Prophet Muhammad, I mean, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. That would just be completely ridiculous and everybody. That would never happen. Okay, but they're not even the Texas school boards. They're just plucking their own favorite religion out and saying that the kids need to learn about this stuff. You know, if they were at least if they were at least going to be consistent, they would also mandate that the kids learn about all the different religions. They're not even doing that. Not even doing that. They're just plucking just Jesus out.
Is that what's happening? They're requiring these texts to be read in mandatory classes?
Yeah, they're over 12 years.
They haven't finalized it. They put it on the reading list. They put it on the reading list.
Yeah, over 12 years, the students will have to read 3 passages from the Bible, 2 from the Old Testament and 1 from the New Testament.
Yeah,
the sermon on
It's just a wedge. It's just a wedge. It's gonna grow, Jason. I've lived in Texas 30 years, bro.
It's just going to take one parent to complain, and that's going to get knocked down. You can have it in school, right? But you can't make it mandatory for all students to read that stuff.
So Adam, the title of the room is secularism the best way to reach a moral society? What is your opinion about that?
The United States is and always has been too heterogeneous in order for anything but secularism to work. This is really milquetoast stuff where you just have reading of random passages of the Bible. These are not actually coherent. They don't actually give you what actual practicing Christians do in various denominations. You need a lot more than just the words in the book, right? There's a whole practice that goes along with that. And whenever the theocrats have tried to kind of implement those things, there becomes a huge amount of infighting because different denominations don't agree with each other on how the Bible should be interpreted, right? So they end up landing on the blandest, most unrelated to actual practice sorts of reading that you can have because it's all you could possibly have. But this isn't really functional, right? Again, all you'll need is one Muslim kid in Texas to be I've been forced to read this, one Jewish kid to be I've been forced to read this thing and I don't want to read it. And that's the end of this plan, because you can't force people to read the text. Again, you can have them in public schools, but I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court is going to be no, this cannot be forced.
And let me give very quick full disclosure. Firstly, Adam, this morning, great take. Probably the best take of the morning in my show. But when I came in this room about 20 minutes ago, the original title was, quote, "Secularism is the best way to reach a moral society." And I didn't tell Carlos, who probably opened the room, but I changed it to the current title. Hope you don't mind, Carlos. Karen?
That's okay.
I'll read this section from the Associated Press's article about this topic. Let's see. Okay, picture book stories for elementary students, including David and Goliath and Daniel in the Lion's Den, are on the required reading list. By the 4th grade, students will encounter passages about Jesus in the New Testament. Right. In middle school, students will be expected to read passages about Jesus, including his most famous sermon, and another where he instructs people to cast aside earthly anxiety and seek the kingdom of God. Okay, that's religion.
Oh, yeah, that's religion.
Is that from the Tribune piece I sent you, or is that from
clearly
the
religion?
law?
Yeah, they're going to get that knocked down. The parts they want you to read is just straight. The Jesus part, that's just straight proselytizing.
Yeah,
that's going to get knocked down.
That'll get called a First Amendment establishment issue. And the establishment, so on free speech and religious matters, they almost always side with the party who is being infringed upon.
Guys, I don't really see it as any different from the Greek myths. And it's just as fine to read the Christian myths as the Greek myths in school. If people take it further than that, I don't know, they begin religious instruction. Okay, that's bad, that's wrong. Just the same as if they began to, teach people the Greek religion or something.
I don't know,
You do learn about it in English, but as a historical myth-making matter, if I were covering the Fertile Crescent, I would include that. You would have to include it.
Yeah,
Am I going to
mandatory, but what?
Am I going to just give me a second? Would I include his recollection to come lose all your things, follow me, and have the kingdom of Christ? No, I agree that's proselytizing. But Noah, the flood myth, goes along with the other flood myths that you teach at that point in time.
Yeah, that's all.
And the only place to get the text for those things is the Old Testament. You can't get it. I'm not going to give kids some secondary source bullshit. They need to be able to read it with their own minds, and they'll have to read Gilgamesh, and they'll have to read the Assyrians, and they'll have to read the Persians, and they'll have to read the Egyptians, but they'll have to read the primary text because you can't learn it any other way.
Interesting. The primary text is actually in Hebrew. It's in the Hebrew Bible. And it's odd that.
I realize that, but we translate all sorts of things, don't we?
Yeah.
All of Greek and Roman history are taught in English at American universities.
The Tanakh translation.
That's not my point. My point is they're all taught in English. Unless you take an advanced doctoral or master's degree course, you're not going to learn how to read archaic Greek.
People with PhDs in biblical theology.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not most people. Most people get taught in English.
Well, then why don't we just teach the documentary hypothesis if we're going to teach the myth? Why don't we teach the history?
Because the history is what happened.
We are going to teach the history, David, but as part of teaching the history of things, you sometimes
it wasn't written by Moses.
Sometimes
up until 150, 200 years ago, people thought the first time was written by Moses.
The myths are not.
People didn't have education at universities where they could interact with people that knew the primary text, and they could suss out the bullshit. They lived under a fucking monarchy that had divine right of kings. This is ahistorical to act like comparative religion shouldn't teach how people who go to seminary know the Bible was historically constructed. They don't learn some other way.
No one's saying that.
Seminary
No one's
is
saying
about
that.
faith.
No,
I was
stop,
talking about
Marshall.
history.
Stop, Marshall.
No, it isn't.
No one's saying that. No one is saying that, David. But as part of studying these things, you do read the original text, and the original texts are religious myths, okay? And if sometimes the original...
That's how religious schools teach it. You can learn about it without reading the whole thing. You can learn that it's not true.
No, that's not.
Marshall, stop. Marshall, stop.
No, I'm sorry.
Control yourself. Control yourself, Marshall.
That is not how you teach history ever.
No, look.
I'm not talking
the documents.
In a seminary, they know the construction, and they don't come out and talk to their parish. They don't share this shit, but it's true. So it's the secrets of the Bible that they should teach if they want to be secular.
It's not about that. It's about the flood myth. There are 7 different flood myths, and you have to teach them all. If you don't use the original text,
don't use any of them.
Yes, you do. If you do
not have to teach them all.
You're fundamentally not telling the truth.
Marshall,
the
you
truth
need
is
to.
all the shit, not some of the shit, not all the shit, not 25%
Marshall, you need to calm down. Stop being so angry, Marshall.
One time at a time. Stop, Jason. Don't attack people.
Not an elective. What class do you take that in? K through 12 in public schools. It's not an elective. That's not. You don't learn. You don't. That would be for maybe an AP class, maybe a cultural anthropology, but those are electives. You don't learn that shit in the primary. Take the fucking STAR test in your freshman year, and now you can finish high school. Texas testing, I can speak firsthand. My children are in these schools. Tell me the class that's like health, where you're going to get into all of the flood myths. That's a waste of time. You don't have time to teach that.
No, in world history, they run over every flood myth in the Fertile Crescent. It's been in world history textbooks in Texas since the 1980s. What are you talking about, David? They've done this for years. What's the difference?
Okay, you don't like the
show me the textbook. Tell me the grade.
You don't like the Old Testament text.
I just want the receipt.
You're willing to have Gilgamesh read.
I just want the receipt.
You're willing to have other texts read
Nope.
that apply to the gods of those
I don't
people
believe it's taught.
for religious
I don't believe
blessing
it's taught.
and forbearance in their journey. You
I don't
have
believe
to
it's
teach
taught.
them all, or else you're not teaching the truth. It's
I agree
just
with
that simple.
I'm fine with it. Tell me the grade, and I'll go look at the text for the world history that talks about these.
David, I
He
didn't
said
say
it-
we're teaching it that. I didn't say
Everybody
that we're
thinks
teaching it
that
that way. I said
education
you would
knowledge
teach it
band.
that way. Big difference.
He said it's in 8th grade. He said it's in 8th grade.
Great text. I'll go look it up.
Yeah. So you're
I don't know if it's
learning.
still in
You
grade.
keep on saying it. You keep on saying, Marshall, that the floods are history, which I thought we agreed that there were myths, but now you're saying history.
No,
So you think it's history? You
the
think it
period
actually happened?
history, depending on where you look at, from 20,000 years ago, there was a myth that had happened in the Black Sea. There was one that had happened in the Mediterranean. And there are sketchy amounts of archaeology that would give you some sort of historical direction. They're not real. When you teach them in history, you don't teach them as a matter of faith. I teach them as a matter of historical record. Right?
Exactly.
Which
You
means
think
I
that
teach-
they actually happened.
Which means I teach the text, the anthropology, and the archaeology all in one, because that's the only way to get an honest reading of it.
I don't think this happens in public middle school.
I didn't say it happened. Y'all
they just read
are reframing what I said. I didn't
That's
say
fine.
does happen. I said would happen.
What I'm
should
saying
happen
is,
this way because that's the most accurate way to teach the subject.
but we're not. But that's like a
History is only
college.
useful if you teach it accurately.
But Marshall, that's like a college way of teaching history, and like middle school is you don't read primary texts as a kid.
Yes, you did. I read paragraphs in all my history books.
They're
Literally all my history books.
Marshall,
It's textbooks based education. Most.
I mean,
that's true.
Okay, maybe I went to a super special school, but I got figured out stuff all the time in high school, and I was in the CP classes. I was not in the AP classes. So for the very basic of Texas education, that's what they did. And now people are complaining about this. If that's Texas education, then we're doing a damn good job.
Well, they taught you that floods are a matter of a fact, like if they actually happen. That shows the failure of the system.
Floods teach they're a part of the historical record.
How come it's a myth?
Marshall,
It's a myth.
It's not the point that it's a myth.
Marshall,
it's that
you
it's
are
written down and you combine it with anthropology and archaeology.
Stop
It's not that
repeating
difficult.
yourself. You're repeating yourself in a confusing way. You keep saying it's part of the historical record. Stop fucking saying that. Okay, you mean something by that is not clear.
Because it was written at the time. That's what I mean.
You need to stop doubling down. All right? You keep saying that, and that is confusing people. And you just need to take a breather here, okay, and start over.
Let me see if I can add something very short that may help. It might make things worse. The way I look at it, which again could be wrong, is that it's a historical fact that there was a flood. The myth is whether or not the flood was worldwide, but that's just the way I look at it.
What flood? Do we know the year it happened? I agree that Marshall may have gone in a jiu-jitsu form to talk about that people knew those stories and told those stories. That is history. Fine. But I think at Gibraltar, that flood, humans weren't around.
Yeah, and as
The
far
Ice
as...
Age,
Oh,
the Ice
go
Age,
ahead.
like the Columbia Valley in Washington, maybe Native Americans have myths around a flood, and I would believe that. But having a flood myth being universal means all of them can make shit up, or that shit travels around. Like Zoroastrianism influences Judaism, and the Persian captivity influenced the composition of the Old Testament. That these things are evolving themselves over time. That's historical. I'm fine with studying that, but I don't think that happens as a classroom universally in 8th grade.
Yes,
And they don't
learning
by the
about
way, they don't print textbooks anymore. I would love to.
Learning about the flood myth doesn't just inform you about the flood myth. It informs you about the next 1,000 years of the society and the Fertile Crescent and the way they arrange themselves, not simply in architecture, water engineering, health, the military, storage of grain. It informs you on everything. It's a base for the knowledge to look at the rest of the archaeology and the rest of the written history and make your own decision. I don't think Texas schools, or any school for that matter, should teach the story of the flood saying one is more righteous than the other. But you don't teach it because it's the flood. You teach it because it's a building block for the way society's coped with that danger for 1,000 years afterward. And it influenced everything. You can't find one thing in ancient history that wasn't influenced by. Not one. The way the Egyptians took care of their fields was really big about the sea people in the flood. The way the Greeks did it was big about the flood. The way the people in the Baltic Sea did it was big about the flood.
The Egyptians
Like you don't learn it.
The Old Testament.
But you don't. Yes. But you don't learn
are
it
you telling
because
me it was dependent upon flood myths?
Because the Egyptians were.
It's the fucking Nile. You're telling
Okay.
me
David.
Marshall.
No, David. There is a separate story. Hold on. There's a separate story in which it's reported by at least 5 or 6 kingdoms in which there was a great flood in Egypt around the same time as the other great flood stories. And again, you don't teach them because they're them. You teach them because they're a base. And you have to build your house on a firm foundation, or else nothing else you learn will make any sense. But it's okay. People can disagree with me. But that's really why you want to do it. Because you want the historical base to properly understand in context the history of the region.
Marshall, you're not really speaking to David's. You're not speaking to David's critique.
I never learned the criticality of all of the Levant on Noah's fucking Ark. I didn't know it was all.
David, I said many stories, not one. Come on, man.
Well, then stop. Just drop the flood, because we're specifically talking about.
Marshall, you are speaking in an unclear way. Okay, what you mean, Marshall, is that there are these flood myths are important. They are relevant. Okay, when you say the flood, Marshall, what it communicates to people is specifically the story from the Bible, which is not what you mean. All right.
No, that's not what I mean.
And so you need to clean up. You need to clean up what you are saying. And also, you need to say a lot fewer things all at once, all right?
Okay,
so,
I can do
on
that.
the one hand, I agree with Marshall. Yes, this family of myths is important in understanding the Middle East and the Fertile Crescent. On the other hand, I disagree with Marshall that you have to teach all of them in the sense that you give all of them detailed study or something, or you have kids read all of them. Honestly, if you read one, that's probably more than most people will ever do in their whole lives. And that's probably enough. But yeah, is it relevant historically? Yes. I'm not sure about the incredible emphasis or weight given here to it. And I don't think that there's a disputable point here at the point where we say, well, there are flood myths, and you probably should know about them to understand the Fertile Crescent and the Middle East. I mean, what is there to disagree with there?
I mean, that's easy. Like, nobody's disputing what Marshall is saying. Like, these people, this stuff is a part of history. Like, people believe in this stuff. They organize their lives around religion, different kind of religious texts, ways of just ways of being in the world. Like, that's real. Like, that shit actually happens. And people should know about that. But it's also at the same time, like, it's not appropriate material for fucking third graders. Okay, it's just not. Third graders, like, my daughter's 7, dude. She's in the 1st grade. She's gonna be going in 2nd grade. She's still learning how to fucking read and write. And to do basic arithmetic. This is material for like maybe 12th graders and college. That's where it would be.
Or indoctrination if you do it in 3rd grade.
I don't think you do it in 3rd grade. I think you do it in 10th grade, but that's maybe equivalent.
you can learn about, for example, I learned like the Nile River in Egypt has some. It was difficult to do agriculture there because of the floods, right? And I forgot what they do and the techniques they do. But you don't need to read these myths about it to learn about that. And all the myths, right, are not history. If you read one of those stories, right, if you read the one on the Bible specifically, it says that there was a genocide. Essentially, all the world died except for a family of Noah, right?
Right.
So that's inaccurate. That's not a historical factor. It's not history.
It's called literature, right? There's a word for it. It's called literature. And when you study literature, you're ready to situate it in contemporary with the author, with what they might have had on their mind at the time, what was going on around them, maybe allegory, how to situate. I mean, Bible study knows how to do this, so, but it's called literature. A book. So, it's a library of a bunch of books written over time. Why is that so hard?
What you learn about this is not like, oh, this is like a historical thing that helps us to know how to, behave in society and things. You learn how to write good stories that capture the reader, so something that is compelling. What is going to capture the reader to keep reading your story and be entertained? That's what you read. And the fact that I hear Marshall saying so much like, oh, this is history, and like Texas has been doing a great example because they taught me this, and you thinking that is actually something that happened tells me the opposite, right? Tells me that the school system has failed.
I didn't say it happened.
Okay, so you don't think it happened?
No, sir. What I think is that there are 7 separate stories of 7 different peoples who inhabit maybe a 50,000 square mile area, and are all saying something rather similar. I don't know why they're saying something rather similar, but they are. So as a consequence, you would want to explore that.
Plagiarism.
And exploring that, you would come across the written texts, which you would then have to compare to the authors and their histories. You would then have to compare to the region around it. You would then have to compare to the archaeology that talks about all of that. Again, the same thing I've been saying for 10 minutes. I didn't say you had to teach it religiously. I said if you teach it, you should give an example of every one, because it gives people the understanding of what each different people said and how it played telephone in the Middle East when it was recorded. And that kind of facet of mass human history is both interesting and important. So.
Yeah, it just doesn't necessarily need to be taught in school, in grade school. You could study it later. Like, why study the flood specifically? There's so many things you could study, the aging or whatever. I do think, though, that for a person who is raised in the United States, who is raised in Western society, it will help them a lot to have some conversancy, some familiarity with the Bible as ordinary Christians understand it, to understand the people around them and the society that, our society evolved from. And that's kind of a unique thing about Christianity in the Old Testament. They have that relationship, whereas like the Tao Te Ching or the Sikh texts don't,
I've kind of mellowed in my old age on these topics. I would have probably been more against it when I was younger. But now I'm just like, it's fine if my kid reads it. I mean, it's not like my kid's going to end up being a Bible-thumping Christian, right? Because, like, she knows that I don't value that, and we don't go to church. And reading a couple paragraphs of the Bible is not going to turn her into an evangelical. It's just not, right? It's not effective in any way. Right, these people are sending their own kids to Bible study, and their kids are leaving their churches at very high rates. So I'm not really worried about my kid being indoctrinated by this sort of stuff. So I mean, they're probably going to read it anyway. It's totally fine.
Well, it drives off quality teachers who know that it's really part of the censorship, and it's more a sign of of the problems with the last 10 years of burnout of quality teachers at the public school.
I believe that.
They don't pay them for shit, yeah.
So, what doctrination do you prefer your child to have if it's not biblical? What other form of doctrination do you prefer?
What I prefer my child to have?
Scientific.
I want my kid to be indoctrinated into the ways of, like was just stated, science, right? I'm a scientist by training. So is my wife. My father-in-law is a doctor. I want my kids to be focused on that.
Well, don't you want your kids to like have the freedom to choose what they want rather than?
No. In fact, I don't. In fact, I don't want that. No. In fact, what I want for my kids is I want my kids to be rich, right? And I want my kids to be educated in things that
rich in what way?
Money. The only way that rich means rich. Rich means money. That's
not
what rich means.
necessarily.
I have my kids in an extremely elite prep school. I'm spending $120,000 a year in their education, and that's what I want for them. I don't want them to feel like they can go to school and major in underwater basket weaving because I don't support that. No, I do not. I do not support them going to school and getting a degree in philosophy or theology or any of that shit. No, we're doing tiger parent stuff over here. And if other people want to raise their kids to do this stuff, that's fine. But they don't have that sort of input on my life. I don't view them as my superiors, so I'm not looking for their approval. I don't want my kids to be like their kids. I don't want to be like them, right? I want them to focus on the things that are highly remunerative in this society, period.
And Adam, if I may, would business and finance be included in those categories?
After they get their scientific education, sure, but they should not be going to get an undergraduate business education. No.
Okay, so you're focusing first on science and then business and finance.
Science and math first.
Yeah.
You can go to college, you can go to grad school, and then you can get an MBA. But the MBA shouldn't be doing that in undergrad. Absolutely not. Do something.
Numeracy. It's called numeracy. You need numeracy before you pretend you know how to operate a business.
But what about, do you value, for example, history and literature, art to be taught in schools?
Yeah, they should be taught in schools, but those are not jobs.
Well,
those are not jobs.
Well, that's a different conversation, but you still wanted your kids to learn it.
Yeah, that's
learn about it. Not become a major in it. I don't want them to career path.
I don't want them to be under the assumption that being an artist is a real job. So in our society,
we value art. Art is a very strong component
so then
of
send
our
your
society.
send your kids to be artists. Mine will not be doing that.
Well, listen.
Mine will not be doing that.
I'm not here to raise a slave. I'm here to raise a human being.
In our society, what we have left over, and I can say this because my kids are at the sorts of institutions where the cult of the humanities started, right? In elite Northeastern prep schools and Columbia University. We had a class of people who were already rich, who then went to establish a bunch of institutions. They're great institutions, right? But they were independently wealthy, and then they were like focused on being artists and all this other stuff, but the money was coming from trusts that they had. This is not how I want my kids to be raised. They need to go out and go hunt something, right? They got to go and make their own money. They're not going to be living off of me forever. And most artists, even very successful artists that we all know, end up dying with no money. And somebody else captures the value of their art, the financial value. This is like the normal thing that happens with artists, right? Some other rich person gets all the value for the art that they've generated. So we don't really value art that much because the artists don't capture hardly any of the value in their lifetime.
Wait, what do you consider art? Do you mean just painting? Is that what you consider art? I mean, when I say art, I mean a little bit more.
Even books. What he's saying though is true of books. It's true of music recordings. it's true of so many things.
So
Okay,
it is
that the artist ends up poor.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want
a very small group of people who take drugs and want to paint.
No,
and,
no,
not
people who
not
take
take
drugs.
drugs.
Talking about his
It's
kid, not Jonathan
anybody.
Rawls behind the
Yeah, I'm not talking about people who ended up being drug addicts, right? I'm talking about people who were like practicing artists who had studios, who had shows, right? And most of them didn't become popular till after their death. And whoever owned their stuff after their death, they got all the money from it.
But
It wasn't them.
But their contribution to society is...
Well, great. I want my kids to experience.
I love what Adam is saying. Yeah. I love what Adam
I'm
is
just
saying.
saying that
Right.
look, listen, imagine if the world was just like Adam, everyone was like Adam.
Well, you can
First, we'll be all
sacrifice
poor,
your line
right?
to be that way.
We'll all be
Sacrifice
poor.
your children.
Well, no, we will all be poor because
You're
all of
just
us will be
scaling
rich.
his personal
Right?
advice. I mean, come on.
I'm just saying that, thank God the world is not like
So
Adam.
then sacrifice your children and your line
There's
to
no
make that art.
sacrificing.
My kids
I
alive.
think the world that it is like Adam, as somebody who loves history and would love nothing more than to like wander around monuments and read first-hand texts, how do you think we get the fucking money for that shit? We go to rich people who do what Adam does. Hey man, we'd like to read these really old texts and maybe write a couple of books.
Oh, Marshall,
you think
stop
you could
it,
shell out a couple
please.
$1 million? And that's usually how that happens.
When I was a child, I became a scientist by training. When I was a child, I wanted to be a paleontologist. That's what I've always wanted to be. When I travel for work, I go to the natural history museums in every city that I go to, still to this day. Just went to the British Natural History Museum. It's a travesty. It's fucking awful. They've turned it into the lowest common denominator museum. It's terrible.
How are you able to enjoy that without artists?
No, but here's the thing. The reason why I never ended up going to school to pursue paleontology was because when I got to university, I realized paleontology has always been a rich man's game. It was always, from its very inception, the thing that people who were married into generational wealth did after they had money. It was never supposed to be a thing that you needed to do for work. And that's why it's so difficult for people who don't come from that money to participate in that field. So I never did it.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think we're entering age of abundance in the future for the next 10
What does that mean? Age of abundance.
Meaning that we no longer have to like vie for...
No.
No? Okay.
Like, demonstrably
We don't believe in magic. Magic.
I mean, it's natural. I mean, we already been there, right? Like, compared to, let's say, well, okay, the average person right now in the United States of America lives, if not better than a king, 200-300 years ago, right?
No.
So we've already started to
No, they don't.
Well, let me just finish. Let me land this.
A king never
Let me land this plane. Average American has access to the toilet when it was only a king who had access to a toilet. Things like that show that we've been progressively entering the age of abundance. So for you, Adam, to think that you still have this mentality of a caveman, vying against others, and it's a bit, I don't know what to say.
I think toilets are a reduction.
So there's this weird thing that he's doing where he's talking about absolute increases in material well-being, and I'm talking about relative position.
Yeah, but I'm
within
saying
society.
that you're.
I'm clearly talking about relative position within your society, right? I want my kids in the society to exist to be at the top of the society. I don't give a fuck what it looked like 300 years ago, because my kids aren't living 300 years ago. I care what the kids who sit next to them in school have and being above them. That's what I want my kids to be above. I don't want my kids to be middle class, right? So I am doing everything in my power to make sure that they won't be middle class. That's what I'm saying, right? So bringing up what it was like when Henry VIII was on the throne is immaterial to what I'm doing in terms of raising my children. I don't care.
All I'm saying is that you're not going to raise them to be the kids of the future because they're gonna suffer based on what you're saying.
That's
They're
nonsense.
they're not gonna thrive.
You don't.
Or wait, let me just finish, dickhead.
Sin, do you have children?
It's what you're saying.
Do you have children?
Stupid. Why do you need to let you finish when you start saying stupid
Does
shit?
Sin have children? Is
Just
the question.
allow me to
Sin,
finish.
do you have children?
Yes.
Do you, what are you doing with your children? What kind of school do they
I'm giving them all the support they need to be a proper human being. And they choose what course. I don't deny them of religion. I don't push religion down their throat. But the Bible is available for them to study if they want to.
What is your background?
I
Where's
find
your family from?
I find it very interesting to study the Bible, and I think it's a good story to share with them. But it doesn't mean that they have to study like they study math, right?
What level of education do you have?
College degree.
And where's your family from?
What is this, an interview about me?
No, this is actually quite important, right? Where's
my family? From East Africa.
Yeah, you should focus on getting your kids some money.
Oh no, I got the money. So all they need is a.
Oh, you have the money.
I have the money. Yeah. All they have to do is have the opportunity.
I rest my case. Your Honor,
I'm not. Look, I have the money for my family. Like they could go to school if they want to. If they don't want to go to school, it's up to them. I'm not putting pressure on my kids.
Wait, you already have family money?
No, I made my money.
Okay, well then I rest my case.
You don't rest your case. I'm not, like, that's not the center of my life. If I had less money, I'd still be who I am. I don't let money decide.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. No, for real.
I don't want to.
You're obsessed over, like, you're obsessed over being part of, like, the
I don't understand why my choice. I think you feel insecure about your choices.
No, I feel
that's why my choices grate you so much, because you feel that I'm inherently discounting your choices by not choosing to raise my children in the way that you chose to.
No, you can raise them all, but I just feel like they're gonna have a lot of trauma in their life.
I don't think so.
At some point, and I think they probably most likely, and I hate to say this to you, Adam, but more likely than not, they probably would not have a relationship with you.
I don't think any of that is likely.
Well, let's just say that we keep it on record, the replay.
I don't think any of that is likely.
Allow me to take 1 minute from my personal experience. I raised 2 children. They're in their 30s right now. When I was raising my kids, I would say I'm sort of in between Sin and Adam. I stressed that I wanted them absolutely to get a college education, and I said that me and my ex-wife, we would pay for all of their needs, reasonable needs, to get a college education, undergrad degree. We didn't care what it was in, but the way I was raised when I was young, college education, any education is something that nobody can take away from you. So all we stressed was we wanted our kids to be happy, do whatever they wanted to do in their life, but get your college education now. Where are my kids right now? My son is a lawyer. God bless him. Pardon me, I'm an atheist. Living in San Diego. He's single, doing very successfully. My daughter has a master's degree in social services, and she's in Portland, married with my first grandchild. They are both happy. They are both independent. They are both living their lives and productive members of society. So I just wanted to throw that out there from my personal.
No, I agree with you, Steve. I think for me right now at this age, I believe college degree is like high school degree, right? Just as we went back 6 years ago.
Well, if that's the case, then it's more important to get your education and a master's or a doctorate.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, I think in the 50s and the 40s or the 30s, sixth grade education was considered high school level education, right? That's basic education. In today's world, you need college education to thrive or even just to survive.
Yeah,
so I agree. I think, and I'm also like, I'll go as far as saying, I'll go as far as saying, Steve, that I think college education should be just like high school, public, and free for all whoever wants to attend it. I support that 100%.
That I agree with.
Yeah, we're bringing up
public education.
Yeah.
I got a different opinion though from you guys. So, I mean, I agree a little bit with what Adam's saying. Like, you know, you should raise your kids to be successful. Like we would disagree with something like that. But I mean, that shouldn't be your only goal. Your goal also, in addition to that, should be to raise your children to learn how to think properly about things, how to think, not what to think. How to think is extremely important. Also, you should teach your kids to, when they grow up to become adults, to be moral people. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to, and in order to do that, you have to teach them about philosophy and history. Those are like necessary conditions in order to raise a moral household, a moral kids or whatever. Not just like teaching them about economics and how to be rich. Teach them to be moral people.
I mean, I don't disagree on the history end, but I do think, like, people who are professionals at that, the money comes from, like, sovereign wealth funds. It comes from wealthy individuals who sponsor things like archaeological digs and research time. Like, Robert Caro has written a set of books about LBJ, and they're wonderful. But Robert Caro made his money by writing. He and his wife, Ina, lived in two one-room apartments, one in New York in the Bronx and one in New York in Manhattan, I think. On a tiny little house somewhere in Texas when they did the LBJ biographies. But Adam is right. Like, look, I didn't finish college, but what I studied was history, and I use history in my field today, but I'm not a teacher or an archaeologist or somebody that gets paid to sit, read books, and, like, write papers about them, which university professors do. You're a teacher, you're a university professor, you're an archaeologist, you're a book writer of some kind, and then, like, maybe you go into public service at some point. Some public servants have had history degrees. But, like, aside from that, the thing in the modern world that is going to get you ahead, and it's good that it can be taught as a young person, because I got old, and I didn't want to study what I wasn't interested in. I didn't want to do the math. And as much time as I spent doing history, I could have done math and I would have been decent at it. Right? I probably wouldn't have been, like, top of my class, but I could have figured it out. But instead of figuring it out, I devoted my resources other places, and I'm doing something that's not the major I chose in college. And if I get a job doing this, the money is going to come from the taxpayer, the wealthy donor, right? It's like, history's a thing that, history and art are things that the wealthy can afford. And they can afford to subsidize those. But digging up parts of Troy in Turkey doesn't pay for itself. There's no amount of searching the Valley of the Kings in Egypt which buys you bread and some sort of meat in Egypt to eat. Right?
So, Marshall, do you think that they're just doing something that's wasteful? Do you think there's no value in digging up those pottery?
I find immense value in it, which is why I want, and Adam, I say this with love, the elitist that you admit you are, when you make your millions, to be interested in funding that sort of stuff. Obviously, you do science, but, like, the funding of the arts and the histories is, like, great. But I'm very well aware that the majority of that money comes from private sources. And it's like,
wait, you're wrong. The majority of that money comes from government grants, okay?
No, a lot in university. What I mean specifically is people who, like, write books. That's private money. Right? And they get paid
there is no such thing as private money, but, if you
I mean, the money that you owe yourself and you dump into something else.
I don't think you need to topic, Marshall, honestly. Majority of the research done in America, in the social sciences, comes from government grant money. It does not come from private donors. This is completely false.
Well, I have to agree with you.
Private donors, because
Marshall, here's the thing.
Okay, one at a time.
So if there's an archaeological dig in Troy, it is almost guaranteed to be coming from some government entity. Some government is sponsoring that dig. Now,
I do agree with that.
I said so. That's what I said.
So, no, Marshall, you gotta remember the difference is that a lot of this money comes from government, keeps the door open, But let's say there's a special thing that they need to do, then they'll go for private funding. But what keeps those guys going, their salary, their institution, it's all based on government funding.
You
And
guys,
taxpayers,
you guys do know that you can go on these digs as a non-expert who has a real job, right? Like,
Yup,
you can
although
go.
I have the hardest time
Volunteer? You can, yes, you can volunteer. You can. They take people all the time to digs for dinosaurs. Like, it's very common. Like, you can do it if you
Well,
want.
do they give you like food and shelter? Is that
Yeah, it's like nominal stuff, right? You can do it, and
Man,
I
we
would,
should run
I
down all
would
the homeless
encourage
people that will do it.
I would encourage my kids to do it after they have an actual career, right? But this should not be viewed as a career because almost no one gets to do it as a career. It's the same as thinking you're going to be a professional athlete or an actor. You are not. You are going to go into academia, you're going to spend a ton of time doing it, and you're not going to get a chair because these departments are not growing, they're shrinking, right? And the people who have these chairs die in these chairs. So no, you should not think of this as something that you can reasonably accomplish. I'd be a fool to let, as somebody who's been in academia, I'd be a fool to let my kids think that this is a reasonable path for the future. Most of the people in those chairs didn't have to do things like postdocs because they're old, and people didn't do postdocs when those old people got in, the university system was expanding, and now most of the people who get these degrees, these terminal degrees, do not end up in academia because there are no jobs in academia. So no thank you.
I agree with Adam that there are no jobs in academia anymore, and the jobs you are gonna get are like some lecturer piston making $2,000 a month or something like that. But and I would agree with Adam that I think mainly it should only go into these career fields if you have some money from your family where you're gonna be safe. But one problem is then the arts and humanities, even more so than it is today, become, heavily concentrated with the kids of the wealthy, right? And that is a problem in terms of what research is done, what methodologies are deployed, how those methodologies are deployed, what is the scope of your focus. Class does matter in that instance. And so I think, now this is of course talking about daydreaming, but we should abolish capitalism, abolish private property, and go thereafter. I'm done speaking. I'm done.
Well, I think there is a lot of like open statements of like, this is not what you should do, this is not what you should do. I think people are free to have their kids educated whatever way they want, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys heard the story of Polgar, I guess, as the name. She's David, if you don't mind muting. There is this chess player that his dad, they live in Hungary, and the dad of Polgar wanted her to be one of the top players, so it was always concentrated on her playing chess, right? And the guy got a lot of criticism of like how hard he pushed his daughter, but his daughter is a top player right now. It's the first woman, was the youngest woman to reach the grandmaster position in chess, right? And she has beaten the top players in the world. Like, I think she's top 10 in the world right now, and she makes a lot of money. So I think people can judge the dad all they want.
I'd be willing to bet she doesn't make it from chess.
Yeah, well, how much you want to bet?
Okay, how much does she make from playing chess? I'm just asking.
She makes more than $100,000 a year playing chess.
Does that mean 101?
I don't know. You can Google it.
So the answer is you don't know, which is fine. So I'm going to stand on what I said. Just give me a second, and I will go on mute. I bet you she doesn't make a shitload of money playing chess. What I suspect is that it's from endorsements, maybe social media, because generally speaking, people who play chess don't make a lot of.
generally speaking, people who play chess don't make a lot of money. But saying that she getting sponsorship because she's a top player
Exactly. So she's getting it from sponsorships and advertising. Thank you.
Because she's a top chess player, though. They are not sponsoring her because she's her good looks, right? She is getting sponsorship because she wins the top competition.
And she's a woman. If she was a man, she probably wouldn't be getting as much in sponsorships. Like
This is precisely what I don't want my kids to do. Right? Like, I don't want them to enter tournament economies where most of the population who tries gets 0 and 5 people get all of the money that is associated. I don't want my kids to think that being that's why I mentioned being a professional athlete. It's bad. I don't want my kids doing that.
And by the way, Adam, what you just said, the numbers you said are, Adam, the numbers you said are generous. I would say, like, out of 1,000 people, maybe 5 people make decent money.
Sure.
You were being
Yes. And I don't want them to think being an actor is a reasonable outcome. Just because, just even if you make it, it wasn't reasonable to think that you would make it. I don't believe in tournament economies are bad. I want them to focus, we're talking about statistics here, right? We're playing statistics. I want my kids to assume they're in the middle 50 distribution of people who go into any field and pick up based on that. Don't pick based on expecting to be the top 0.01% of a field. That's unreasonable.
Let me say this. I think you got my comment wrong. I'm not. My comment was on saying to you that your kids were not gonna have a relationship with you, and that's not the thing for you to do, right? My point is, parents have a lot of degree to decide what they want their education to the children be, and judging them, I think it's really dumb because it's kind of subjective. Each one has their own opinion on what is the best for the kids. In that example, I was talking about how the parent of this particular person who makes I look $4 to $5 million, and yeah, it's a particular case, statistically very improbable, right? Very unlikely that you will have a top athlete kid in that.
Okay, so so we're clear, it just went from 6 figures to $4 or $5 million. Is that what I heard correctly?
No,
I didn't hear that. Okay.
No, I said that you said, I bet that she doesn't make a lot of money playing chess, right?
I said yes, and I said she probably makes a majority of her money from advertising and sponsorships. Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, it's still money from playing chess. But the point was that you shouldn't judge the parent for their decision. Someone may say, I want my kid to be a scientist, or someone may say, I want my kid to be a professional baseball player or something, and I'm going to invest on that, and that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like parents should be free to take that decision, and judging them for that, it's kind of dumb. So I felt like Sin comments to Adam was really out of place.
I get what you're saying. We're on the same page.
Okay. So that's the end of my comment.
Well, I don't mean to. I'm just stating the fact that that's the future he's gonna continue. If he,
you don't know that.
Don't people know their own children?
I'm not. Well,
I've got kids. I know.
Maybe what I'm saying is,
by the age of 12, you can probably predict your kid's social aptitudes and proclivities and motivations. And are you telling him that just by pushing his kid to succeed and enabling it with resources, his kid's going to resent him? That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, it's have happened, and there's a lot of use cases for that.
Yeah, but to say it's going to happen is like...
I said likely.
I would just say...
Likely. Then that means greater than 50%.
Oh my God.
Why do you think it's greater than 50%?
That is what it is.
Why do you think
it's not? It's not likely. I mean, I work as a scientist. I work for a pharmaceutical company. Lots of Asians in my company, and all of their parents, when they talk about how they were raised, they were all raised in the way that I'm talking, and they all have relationships with their parents. All of them.
Yeah, I would, again, it's just a crystal ball, but I would think that Adam's kids would totally appreciate. I mean, they know that he's paying 120 grand a year to give them the best education possible, which means they're making the
That's
best
after
contacts.
tax money too.
Yeah, they're making the best contacts possible to get them future.
What if, Steve, if they don't like what they're doing because he forced them to do what he wants them to do?
Why do you think it's probable, likely, more likely?
You know what? Let me say this. I'll give you a short.
Does Sin just think that all Asian kids want to be doctors and lawyers and scientists? Do you think that every Asian kid just like dreams of that? Like,
let me give you
so Chinese and so Indian. It's not because the kids are like all lining up and saying from the time they're babies, this is what I want to do.
Let me give you a 60-second personal family experience. I have a niece, a blood niece. She is currently an attorney. She's been an attorney for 4 to 5 years. She graduated from UCLA with honors and got a 25. I don't remember. She got like a partial scholarship to Harvard because she wanted to go to law school. That's Harvard Law School. She got a full ride, a 100% scholarship to go to UCLA Law School. And of course, we live in Southern California. This won't take more than 60 seconds. My brother, her father, could afford to pay for Harvard, but she didn't want her dad, my brother, to be burdened with that. And by the way, although Harvard clearly worldwide, nationwide, has better recognition than UCLA, UCLA is still a top fucking law school. She chose UCLA. One of the main reasons is that she didn't want her dad, my brother, to be burdened with paying for the tuition. She got a full ride to UCLA. She graduated UCLA Law School with honors and has been an attorney for a couple of years now. She could have gone to Harvard, but she wanted to save her dad some money.
Well, that's a great kid to think in a sense. That's a good person. But I'm just saying that you have to be careful with your kids, not forcing them and putting too much pressure on them to be what you want them to be rather than them trying to figure out what they want. So, I mean, statistically speaking, David, 50% of all kids don't have a relationship with their parents already.
What percentage you said? 50%?
Over 50% of their
that's
already don't have in America.
That's
what I'm saying is not
that's very hard to believe.
Well,
Is that
look
from
it up.
Pew?
Yeah, just check out Pew Search.
Yeah, look it up.
Look it up for yourself. A lot of American kids don't have a relationship with their parents for one reason or the other. So what I'm saying is not particularly something against Adam. It's just as the research shows it, right?
50%.
So do you live in America? Because I live in America, and that's...
Oh, man, you don't know what they're... Why do you keep harassing me about who I am and where I'm from?
Do you live in America,
Of course I do, nigga. What the fuck
Because
you talking about?
that is not my experience of America at all.
And by the way, I've got to chime in here now. Hello. We don't use the N-word in the atheism.
Oh, no, my bad. I didn't finish saying that.
That's okay. We don't use the N-word in the atheism house. Please continue.
He didn't even catch it, so... Sorry.
He heard it. I heard it.
Do you disagree with that?
Everybody heard it. I'm just trying to show him that I'm American, too. Just because keeps...
That's not being American.
Bitch, motherfucker, asshole, use them all. Just don't use the N-word. Sorry, and if you want to know why, it's very simple. I don't like.
No, it's fine. It just had to come up because I was just getting frustrated. But I apologize for that. It won't happen again.
Sin, Where did you get that statistic?
Well, let me look it up, and I'll give it to you in a nice typo.
It actually doesn't surprise me if that statistic is accurate. I mean, it's probably hard to get good statistics on something like that, but I don't think it's, especially between boomers and millennials, there's a lot of broken relationships.
I mean, I did a quick search on ChatGPT, and it says 16% of American adults say they are currently estranged from at least one parent. So if you're
less
saying
than
both parents, it's
20%.
even less.
Which means that 85% of them get along.
I mean, out of every 10 people,
16% is still very high.
I thought you said 15%.
One out of 7.
Did you say 1-5%?
If you're a parent,
I'm sorry. Did I hear 1-5%? Yes or no?
Carlos said 16.
Oh, are you saying 60%? 60%?
No, Uncle Chief.
16, which means that
0.4 less than 20%.
Thank you. Which means that 84% get along.
That's glass half full, and I appreciate that, Steve. But if anyone who's a parent and raising young kids and putting their heart and soul into the life of these children, you would feel concerned about 16% risk of losing relationship with your child.
I would think that 84% success rate is pretty fucking good.
From a parent's perspective or from a statistics perspective?
From a parent's perspective.
Are you a parent?
Well, I said 5 minutes ago, and it's okay if you didn't hear it, that I raised 2 kids. They're both in their 30s, so the answer is yes.
Okay.
Can I just say that estrangement, or that 10 to 16%, is only a 1 to 4 year period in most of those cases too. So it's not a long term in most of those cases. So yeah, you can say that it's up to 15, 16% don't have a relationship, but it doesn't last forever in most cases.
Yeah, and I didn't even bring that up. Is the 15% for life or just temporary? I didn't even ask that.
I want to ask a really
The original
important...
claim was over 50%. So I mean, let's just stare at the receipt. Send. Where the fuck did you get it?
Yeah, okay, comrade. Okay, everybody go on mute. Comrade wants to interrupt the entire conversation. Go ahead, comrade. Go ahead.
Sin, so I noticed your profile picture is a chimpanzee, and you use the N-word. Are you black?
So yeah, getting back to the 26%.
No, you're not.
Okay, so comrade, hello, comrade. The answer is he doesn't want to answer your question right now. But that being said, comrade, go on mute, and then you can blend in. Go on mute, comrade. Go on mute, please.
Do you understand that?
Second, comrade, I'm asking you a second polite time. Go on mute,
But this
please.
is racism, dude.
Okay, third and last time. Go on mute. Okay, hang on. Comrade, chill. Listen to the conversation. Wait about 5-10 minutes. All of us have done it. And then blend in. Carry on, everybody.
So I did exaggerate the percentage. I stand corrected. 6% with their mothers, 26% with their fathers. So the average means would be 16%. That sounds about right. But which is 26% of not having a relationship with your father. That's problematic. I think 26%.
What led up to this? The significance of this statistic? Why are we talking about that statistic?
Putting pressure on your kids to succeed.
We were talking about how it's best and not best to raise your kids. That's what brought it.
You know, it's best to not raise your kids if you're non-black.
Oh, okay, now you got it. Okay, comrade, fair enough. Comrade, do you have kids?
No, but...
Okay, so just so we're clear, hold on, comrade. So you have no experience raising kids.
Yes,
How
yes,
old,
I do.
comrade?
Yes, I do.
I'm not
I'm a
done with you.
teacher.
I'm not done with you. How old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay. And what city or state do you live in? I'm in Los Angeles, California, just so you know.
Yeah.
What city or state are you in?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia. Very good. And do you even have a girlfriend?
I've had many, yeah.
You've had many, but currently none, correct?
Who cares?
I care. We'll try
What-
again.
what-
Do you
what does-
currently have a girlfriend?
I have 2.
You can leave
You
if
have
you
2
don't want to
girlfriends.
answer.
That's all I need to know.
I'm not.
And comrade, I've been in workers' compensation, employment, and labor law for over 30 years. What is your profession? What do you do for a living?
Public health.
Public health. Can you be more specific?
I'm a peer outreach specialist.
I'm sorry, you're a what?
A peer outreach specialist. What does this have to do
What?
with
I'll tell you what this has to do with, because you've been making comments about those of us that have children, yet you have none. So
when did I do
Please be more, I answered your question. Please be more specific. What is it that you do, a peer outreach specialist? What does that mean?
I support people who don't have homes and struggle with substance use disorder.
And are you employed by the government?
Not directly, no.
Well, not directly. Are you privately employed?
It's a nonprofit job.
It's a nonprofit job. And when do you expect to have children?
I may or may not.
Okay, very good. What I suggest you do then, since you do not have any immediate plans to have children, is to listen to those of us that do have children. Maybe let me finish.
Steve, why are you so mad?
Yeah, why are you so mad? Let me propose this question to you, Steve.
Sure, go ahead, ask your question.
For you, with kids, I think you'll agree with me. Do you think that we should discourage non-black people or people at all from using the N-word?
Okay, go on mute. Thank you for the question.
Wait, are we just...
we're done for now. Go on mute.
Wait, can you read?
Go on.
Steve, why are you so upset?
Steve, come down. I want to. I didn't hear him. I had a break in my connection.
Very good. Ask the question again, because JCC wants the question repeated.
No. Comrade was saying something. Imagine what? Imagine this. What?
I asked him to repeat the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said, would you imagine allowing your children to say the N-word?
You said non-black people. No, that is not what you said. You said non-black people.
You know how to jump around, comrade.
Steve, I then extended it.
You said non-black people, right?
Steve,
be honest. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me.
David heard what I said.
Don't lie to me. You said non-black people, right?
You said both.
I said both.
Okay, so let's take it a third and last time. Ask the question one last time.
Why are you having me repeat it? Why are you crashing out?
I'll tell you why I'm asking you to repeat it and why I'm crashing out.
No, I would not. I would not allow my child to use slurs like that.
Of course not. Of course not. And the question's not even directed to Steve or anybody else. It is directed to Sin, who not confirmed whether or not he is black. And he used the N-word against a black person on this stage.
All right, fair enough. Hold on, stop.
Why are you cutting me off?
Because I own the house and I can do whatever I want. If you don't like it, open up your own room.
I'm not talking about something you did.
Well, in all
you know what? Tell you what. Let's make it real simple. Let's make it real simple.
In all fairness,
comrade. Hey, comrade.
It's not comrade. It's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carlos opened this room, so I think it was about morality and secularism, and now we're talking about slurs. So I don't know. Can we get?
I'll tell you what, JCC. If you want to keep it in line, I'll go on mute. You got it, brother. Because
Well, I'm very surprised at you, Steve. I don't know why you're acting like this. Because
really, do you know me?
Yeah, I would expect you to be disgusted.
When was the last time we spoke?
Adam is black?
Comrade, when was the last time we spoke?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, then how do you think I know you?
Wait.
So, I
am confused too, Steve, why you're acting like this.
Like, why are you?
We were discussing parenting
He said
children.
you, Steve, not
and,
the other way around.
And there was something said about what's best for parenting children, and there were some percentages about losing, relationship with children. Where'd that come from? I'm curious.
Adam and Sin were engaged about parenting and pathways and affordances and constraints, and Sin declared Adam's parenting style to probabilistically lead to more likely than not his children would not talk to him.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a bit extreme.
Wait, really? How do you know his kids wouldn't talk to him? I had a dad like that.
I was just giving the...
You'd be talking about a fucking old man?
The synopsis.
And then I'm presuming...
Synopsis is
and Sin used the N-word.
Right. I did not use the N-word.
We all heard it.
Yes, you
we all
did.
heard it.
Okay, so Steve has a hard, fast rule. That is not to be.
Yeah, and I did. I sort of halfway said it. I didn't fully.
You fully said
No,
it.
you fully said it.
Sin apologized for it.
He did not apologize for it, and again,
He still didn't admit to saying it.
Steve,
He denied it. As soon as you deny it, you're apologizing.
Wait. This is the most important thing. This dude has a chimp as his profile picture, and there is no evidence that he's even black, right? So sure, no one should. Oh my God, no one should.
Are we doing the hierarchy of oppression cards here, or
It's not a hierarchy of oppression. What the fuck are you talking about? It's racist.
Conrad, are you that fragile?
Are we joking?
As an adult man, are you that fragile from hearing somebody use the N-word?
JCC, you're let out of the cage. JCC, you're let out of the cage.
Yeah, is this a joke? Do we have a bunch of white people that are non-black person?
Where can I apply for the black card?
JCC, control this shit or I will.
Okay, you do it, Theo. I'm in a bad spot. I get bad connection.
You got it, buddy. Okay.
That means I'm in trouble instead of the people defending racism, right?
All right, so I think we should
Could I
establish
share my perception on the exchange?
Johnny, I don't think we've heard from Johnny, have we?
You did hear from me earlier, and I think you may have actually confused my voice with Comrade's.
I would love to hear your opinion, Johnny. Take a few minutes.
Sin used a word none of us are a fan of.
It's called the N-word. Out to him, he immediately apologized. Please continue.
I did hear him apologize also when Comrade was frustrated because of what because he perceives that Sin is a non-black person, and
he also didn't like my authority of trying to get the room back under control. Please continue.
Agree.
What are you talking about?
Hold on.
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm the head mod. I'm the owner of the house. Go on mute. That's what I'm talking about.
But then I believe
Go on mute, Comrade.
And I believe Comrade wanted to find out whether or not Sin was black, and Brett pressed him on it, and that seemed to frustrate you, and then everything kind of spiraled after that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the room is not about who's black, who's not black, right?
You said a slur.
I did not use a slur.
Yes,
no,
you
I did.
did.
Because I don't consider it a slur.
Didn't I just say he apologized for it? Let's move on.
He apologized for it. If a white person says the N-word or a non-black person says the N-word, it doesn't matter if they apologize.
Just say you identify as black, and then you can say it. That's all you have to do.
I move
Just
him.
say you identify as
I
black.
did not call anybody that word, though.
I just move him to the audience. Okay.
I'm sorry, you moved who to the audience?
I move Sin to the audience.
Well, you're the super mod. It's on you.
Oh, okay, so.
I mean, it's my house, but you're the super mod. You can do whatever you want.
So we can. I think that it's a good rule. We don't want people to using the N-word.
It doesn't matter if it's a good rule. It's a rule, period. Don't do it.
And we need to try to discourage that kind of behavior. We can go back to the conversation, which was if parents have the right to essentially decide what to do with their kids. I mean, it was not the original one, but it evolved into that.
Well, since no one's talking, and I realize occasionally even I can get out of line, and that's why JCC has the absolute right to say, hey, Steve, you're getting a little out of line, or take a shit break, or whatever the case may be. We have very few rules here. One rule, no N-word, period, end of story. Next, as long as y'all are not insulting each other too much and speaking over too much, I will let you go as long as you want. I'll just listen. But when people start arguing, when the personal attacks start happening, when 5 people start speaking at once, that's where I have to do my thing.
What do you guys want to talk about? You guys want to talk about the same teaching or secularism?
Can I talk to the title?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that secularism is the best way to reach the goal of having a moral society, because I think values are agnostic. And what I mean by that is, let's say Adam is very religious, of some denomination, some religion. And let's say I'm not religious at all. If we act in the same way and our behaviors are the same, such that we respect the rights of other people, we pursue our own interests without harming others, then what's important is that we share the same values. And a third person, say Steve or JCC, looking at the two of us behaving in the same way, raising our children to respect others and be courteous, polite, kind, etc., hardworking, then Steve and JCC may not be able to tell who's religious and who's not. Let's say we don't wear, jewelry or crosses or whatever the case may be. So the values that are internal to the society are really agnostic, because kindness is not unique to religion. Hard work is not unique to religion. The values are independent and shared across, religions and societies. So I think being secular allows people to behave with a moral compass independent of any specific religion. If I want to be religious, then I can do that, but the behavior, that's observed is still the same.
Well said.
Oh, I forgot one other rule. When a moderator is speaking, be quiet.
That was well said, and I agree. And I think even prior to Homo sapiens walking the planet, or even any hominids, morality was there. So therefore, it started off secular. It's demonstrated that you don't need any kind of belief in a deity to have morals.
And by the way, very quickly, for those of you that don't know, we've been joined by Alfonso, who is the founder of the Atheism House. So for any of you that don't know Alfonso, he's the founder.
He's the creator.
So,
Nice.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Alfonso is our. What's that?
I didn't want to interrupt the mod, but felt right.
Thanks for creating the room, Carlos.
So what's the flaw in my argument? If I'm saying that values are agnostic, an argument.
There is no flaw. It's I gave you compliments. It's a great argument.
It is eminently wise.
I think that one thing that people seem to like, we're not negotiating values here. That's what I'm seeing. We're negotiating outcomes and norms, right? So within secular society, we're focused on outcomes and norms, not on what you value and what you don't value. That lives in the realm of morality. And I don't think morality is meant to be legislated, right? There are, some outcomes that result in broad moral behavior, but we're looking for establishing norms, right? And norms, we have to be inclusive group wise and as much as possible. So I think what secularism does is it forces integrative negotiation. I think a good example, and it also separates the personal values from the public norms, right? You have personal values, you can live by those values, right? And it doesn't, and they generally, as long as they don't violate the public norms, like the good of the public. And something like same-sex marriage, right, is a good example, right? What we're legislating there is contract law, basically. If a man can enter into a contract with a woman, then a woman should be able to enter in that same type of contract with a woman, and vice versa, right? And that's really what it comes down to. It's eliminating discrimination on the basis of sex in contract law, and recognizing that within the secular realm, we're establishing norms around contracts, right? The moral or values-based aspect of it is when I go to have a commitment ceremony of whatever type, and I walk into a evangelical Baptist church and they turn me away, that's fine, right? I just need to find a officiant, right, or someone to perform the ceremony that it's within their values to go ahead and do same-sex marriage ceremonies, right? So that's the difference. And what I object to is like people trying to legislate their moral values and preferences into societal norms, especially in cases where it restricts the liberties of others, and the exercise of those liberties has no negative, like net negative to the public and society at large.
I agree with that. I would just add that ethical behavior is downstream of values. So if I value, then you I can that value would behave is a priority.
Can you say that again, Brian? You were breaking up really bad.
I said that moral principles are downstream of values. So if I value life, then that priority value.
It sounds like a tautology. I'm not trying to cut him off, but to just shift it and say, well, your values are your morals. What have you really said? What informs your values? Can you be more specific?
Yeah, what I'm saying is you have to start with values, and primarily you have to start
informs those?
With valuing
The conditions around you.
Well, the most fundamental question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to live or not? And then from there, you say, okay, I value my life. And from there, you combine that with the requirements of living, eating, breathing, cooperating with others, etc. So valuing life is the most fundamental value, the most fundamental question you can ask yourself, and everything derives from that value.
Well, what if that's not exactly robust to someone else saying that they value their life more than your life. I mean, you're just vague. I value my own life, only your own life, or kinship. Like maybe you look around, you were born into a society. Maybe you have duties, responsibilities, laws. Like what informs your values? It can't just be like I'm alive.
Now
I
you-
want to stay
I
alive.
think I think I can answer that very quickly. If I may, very quickly. Morality. You didn't say morality, but I'll say it.